to Well Seasoned on Facebook Live. It's Wednesday, so it's hump day with Chef Helena. And we're cooking veggie bolognese today. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
How's life?
It's still good. Yeah, feel good.
Good.
Excited about cooking this.
Yeah, it is good. I'm excited to have another real chef back in our kitchen cooking. It's been a little empty without you guys here, but we're slowly but surely getting back into the swing of things with our cooking classes. This morning I published the next 2 weeks worth of cooking classes with Chef Helena. She's going to be making risotto.
And we're going to make tacos, fish tacos.
Fish tacos with a black bean and corn salad. And then Chef Dennis is back in this kitchen again tomorrow night. And
What's he making?
What's he making tomorrow night? Oh, he's making paella. So excited for this. And then the next 2 weeks with Chef Dennis, his menu should come out later today too. So there's tons of really great stuff coming up. But hopefully you guys are ready to cook some lunch today. Your hands are washed, you've got all your supplies ready to go. And let's turn it over to Chef Helena and get cooking.
Thank you, Angel. Good morning, everybody. I hope that everyone's had a good week so far. Your hands are clean and dry, and all your mise en place is done, ready for you, ready to go. So today we're making vegetarian bolognese, and this is kind of a shout out to a very good friend of mine, Sarah, because she keeps on asking me for this recipe. So now you've got it written down, and I'm going to show you how to make it, so I don't have to bring it over for you. You can make this at home. It's super, super easy. I'm going to show you guys a couple different swap outs as well. This feeds about 4 people. It should take about 20 minutes or so. It freezes really well. And we need to make sure that we have everything ready to go. We have our cutting board, we have the chef's knife, we have all of our ingredients, and I'm going to go over the ingredients in a second for you. You need to make sure that you have a pot filled with water, about half to 2/3 of the way filled with water, a wooden spoon, some tasting spoons, your measuring cups, everything should already be measured out for you, a ladle for the sauce, and you're going to need tongs for the pasta for a little bit later. We're going to get started with what takes the longest, which is the spaghetti. You can use any type of pasta. You can use spaghetti, which is thinner and smaller, angel hair, rigatoni, whatever you happen to have at home. So if you go over here and take a look in the pot right now, I've got some water. We're going to bring it to a boil. If your water is not boiling, what's going to happen is the pasta is going to go stick together like this. We need to make sure that our pasta has enough social distancing, has enough room to move around. We need to season that water with salt, a good amount of salt. There's only 2 times you get a chance to season the pasta. One is when you boil it, and one is when you cook it in the frying pan. So a good amount of salt goes in the pot. There we go. Once our pasta is going to come to a boil, once our water is going to come to a boil, we're going to boil our pasta. We're going to get started with an onion, some olive oil. There's not a lot of ingredients in here, so make sure you use good stuff. I use brown mushrooms instead of white mushrooms. I think they have a little bit more flavor. I've got some garlic here. I have our seasoning. So I have oregano, I have basil, oregano, thyme, and rosemary. If you don't want to make your own blend, we have it at the store here, so you can buy an Italian blend, or you can buy something called a Taste of Tuscany, which has some veggies in it as well. It's really super yummy and delicious. I have a large can of diced tomatoes, and there's a little bit of, I don't know if you guys can see that, there's a little bit of herbs in there and a little liquid. I have some tomato sauce, super, super plain tomato sauce. There's no seasoning in here. Our water's come to a boil. I'm going to take our pasta and put it in here. And it takes about 11 minutes or so. At about 10 minutes, I'm going to start checking. Get it all in there. And you need a pound of pasta. A pound of pasta will feed 4 adults or 5 kids or 5 side dishes. So if you're having this like with steak or something, I guess we'll be having vegetarian pasta. You could have a vegetarian pasta with steak. You can have it with some grilled veggies. So I've got the pasta in the salted water. Let's get back to here. I have some plain tomato sauce here. These are lentils in a can. You can use green lentils, you can use brown lentils, you can use a yellow lentil. This is the liquid that's left over. And it's going to starch, I'm going to save that in case my pasta sauce is too thick. I can see my pasta water is going to boil over, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Give it a stir.
Chef, you didn't put oil in that pasta water. How come?
No, because here's what happens. What does oil do? Oil floats to the surface. So picture this. Pretend my arm is a piece of pasta, and this is the water. As I'm putting the pasta in, it coats in that oil, and that oil will prevent all that sauce from sticking. So that starchiness of the pasta that's on the outside will make all the sauce stick to the pasta a little bit later on. And if you coat it in oil, it's just going to slip right off. You'll have a slippery noodle, and it's not quite as good. And what is the first thing that happens? All that oil sits on the top. So you're basically pouring the oil in, and you're throwing it out into the sink. So it's a waste of money. So I never use oil. Getting back to the lentils. If you want, you can buy some dry lentils. They only take about 20 minutes or so to cook. So cook them in some boiling salted water till they're soft. I have some black pepper here. This is vegetarian, so I have veggie stock powder here. If you don't want to use veggie stock powder, you can always substitute chicken stock powder, but obviously it's not going to make it vegetarian. This is veggie stock powder. You can use a vegetable cube. If you don't have this, you can take some dehydrated dried mushrooms and throw that in the food processor until you have about a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons, and that'll give you a little extra richness. Pinch of sugar, we might not use this. It depends how sweet or how acidic the tomatoes are. So we'll taste it. And I have some Parmesan cheese here. Tasting spoons. We are going to dice an onion. I showed you how to dice an onion before, but I'm going to show you again how to dice that onion. So the onion, there's the top of the onion, there's the bottom of the onion, and these are big onions. I'm going to take a little bit off the top, a little bit off the bottom. To make it flat. I'm going to peel it. I have a bowl for my garbage. And while I'm going to be dicing my onion, I'm going to turn my frying pan on, medium, olive oil. There's not a lot of ingredients in here, so the olive oil is going to not only help saute, it's going to give it lots and lots of flavor. On the bottom, to dice my onion. If you take a look over here, that was a whole onion. We diced it, cut it in half. Looks like there's a flame in that onion. See that? That flame goes towards your belly button. And that little root end is like a miniature claw holding onto that onion. Remember what I showed you the first day and the second day and the third time? What we're going to do is, in order to hold the knife, you're going to pinch it, curl your fingers underneath. Pinch, curl. This hand is going to be like a letter C, and we're only going to go 3/4 of the way through. 3/4 of the way through, so I'm not going all the way through on my onion. As soon as my hand gets close, I'm going to move my hand to the other side. And I want to make this small. The smaller you make it, the quicker it cooks. So that's what I have here. So I've only cut about 2/3 of the way through. 2/3, 3/4. Hand goes up like this. And you notice that my knife is sharp, it just glides through. Dice it up and down. I chose the smallest cutting board. I don't know why I chose the smallest cutting board. I'm going to take this one, just knock it on its side here. And because it's a semicircle, I'm going to turn this. So vertical, now I'm going to horizontal. Knock this down like this. That's what you should be throwing away, just that little bit. I want to get this in the frying pan. Turn up a little bit so it starts to sizzle. I'm going to do the other half of the onion. I like lots of onion in there. I think this is what gives us great flavor. This is going to mimic that sort of meatiness. 3/4 of the way through. Getting close to my hand, put my hand on the other side. Now I'm going to go horizontal. And as you do this, you go quicker and quicker. If your knife is dull, it's going to be harder for you to push down more. You can cut yourself. So a sharp knife is much easier to use than a dull knife. Remember how I took that onion? I'm just going to put it like that, semicircle. Cut it, cut it, cut it. Now I'm going to go horizontal again. Easy. Don't put this in the food processor. It's one more thing to wash. And it kind of just mushes itself up. If you by chance have long pieces like this, you can just run your knife through like that. This does not need to be perfect. This just needs to be lunch. Put all of my onions in. I can smell that olive oil. It smells delicious. I've got my wet towel underneath my cutting board, like you should always have. And now I've got somewhere to wipe. Take my onions, and I'm sauteing my onions. If you need to add a little bit more oil, you can add a little bit more oil. You see how that pasta is doing? Does anyone know how to test for pasta? There's the old-fashioned way of throwing it on the fridge, but I don't want to clean the fridge. I want to eat the pasta. In order to test to see if the pasta is done, I take one little piece, wait till it cools off, and then you try it. Like this. I know you can't see it, but right in the center there's a little bit of white, which means the pasta is still raw. So that's not done. My onions are going to go from white to clear, to light brown, to medium brown, to dark brown, to burnt. We don't want to burn the onions. That's going to be black. Once the onions go from white to clear, they're technically cooked. And the onions reduce down quite a bit. You notice that we don't have any salt in this recipe? The veg sauce powder is going to be our salt. What I'm going to do is, while I'm waiting, I'm going to get all of my ingredients ready to go in the frying pan, assembly line style. So what's going to go in next? Our mushrooms. And this is only 6 mushrooms sliced up. Mushrooms have great flavor. It's got that meatiness to it. I've got a little bit of garlic here. If you're going to be using dried garlic, which you can use dried garlic, put it in with your dried spices. I've got my diced tomato. I have my tomato sauce. I have my lentils, that little extra lentil liquid. These lentils are going to be for maybe a salad for another time. I love lentils. They're not expensive. It's great to have in your pantry. Stir them around.
Chef,
Yes.
if you didn't have lentils in the house, beans, would you use beans, like a white bean or?
I think a white kidney bean would be delicious. Garbanzo beans would be really good. You could use really any bean you have. If you don't have beans at home, use extra mushrooms.
So this sauce is technically vegan, right?
Yep. So if you wanted to, you could substitute, instead of using regular Parmesan cheese, you can substitute like a vegan Parmesan cheese. Yes, you can. So here's all my ingredients. Mushrooms, I've got my garlic, I've got my spices. Spices are oil soluble, not water soluble. So what we're going to do is we're going to fry the spices just for a second or so in that little bit of oil. I've got my tasting spoons here. I'm just waiting. It takes a little while. So within about 20 minutes or so, you can have delicious pasta sauce.
And you could make a double batch.
You can make a double batch and freeze it. You could use it almost, maybe put a couple extra cans of beans in it and a little bit of chili powder and have it like a chili. Basically, this is kind of the start of a chili. When I was little, my mom would make spaghetti sauce one night, and the next night she would add in some chili powder, and she'd add some beans into it, and a little bit of ground meat, and she would make a chili. And remember how many onions we had? We had one big onion in here, and it filled up the whole frying pan, and now it's about half the size of the frying pan. I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see? So my onions have gone from white to clear, so I know that they're cooked all the way through. I'm just going to ever so slightly start to brown them. And check to see how the pasta is. It's hot, be careful. So the old wives' tale was if you take the pasta and you throw it onto the fridge and it sticks, it's done. Maybe about 2 more minutes and that's it. Delicious. My onions, I'm gonna just start to brown in a second or so. And I've got this on a medium-high heat because I'm standing here watching it. Don't ever go to answer the phone and walk away. Your onions will burn. They know that you walked away. So right as they're starting to brown, I'm gonna add my mushrooms in here. Mushrooms have lots and lots of water. If I take this mushroom and squeeze it, I bet you I can squeeze out. Do you see that? I'm squeezing out a little bit of water. So mushrooms have lots of water. I want to get rid of that water. How do we do that? What's happening is called evaporation. All of my water is evaporating off of my mushrooms and my onions. And they are starting to cook all the way through. And you'll also hear, if you're very quiet, you'll hear the onions and the mushrooms squeak. They make a squeaking sound. I'm going to walk away for a second, so I'm going to turn this to a medium heat, and I'm going to drain my pasta. Watch what I'm going to do. I have a strainer here. Underneath my strainer, I have a little container. And I'm going to strain it into here. Why am I doing that? Let's see a little of that pasta water. That pasta water is filled with starch, and that starch is going to help thicken up my sauce. And this is sort of an emergency, just in case you need it, it's there for you. Can you hear? You're very quiet. Can you hear them squeaking? The mushrooms will start to squeak on you. Excuse me for a second. I'll take this over here. Do it in my sink. And remember I have that container there. Excuse me for a second. Excuse my back. Okay. Pasta here. I have pasta ready to go. I have that little bit of starchy pasta water. See how it's not clear? Just going to stick this beside that just in case I need it. I'm going to turn it up a little bit more because I'm standing right here. And the rest of this goes pretty quickly. Do you see that brown bits on the bottom? Those little carbly bits? It's called fond. F-O-N-D. And that is just the concentrated mushroom juices. You remember I said you can hear those mushrooms squeak? Listen. Can you hear them squeak? So once they start squeaking, I know they're ready. If you need to add a little more oil in, add it into the center, just a little bit. I'm going to fry very quickly my garlic. Garlic burns super quick. Just maybe about 30 seconds or so. Once you can smell it, that smells delicious. Incorporate them all in. Delicious. Now, this is for the adults. If you're making this for adults, you can add a little bit of white wine or red wine to this. We're making it for us kids. So there's no wine added into this. But you see those little brown bits still there? I don't want those to burn. You see that? I don't want that to burn. If it burns, quickly take it, put it to another frying pan. I'm going to fry my spices just super quickly in that little bit of oil that we have. Frying the spices is going to release all that lovely flavor. And remember what we said, that spices are oil soluble, not water soluble, which means they're going to infuse into that little bit of olive oil that we have there. This by itself is delicious on top of toast. As a beautiful mushroom topping. This is almost like a mushroom bruschetta. Watch how easy this is. Our diced tomatoes go in now. You might hear a sizzle, don't freak out. And I've got a wooden spoon that's flat so I can scrape all those little bits. Remember those little brown bits at the bottom? If I'm scraping them, do you see how that tomato juice is cleaning all those little bits off the bottom of the pot? That's what I'm looking to happen. Clean it. And any diced tomato will do. If you have fresh tomatoes, use fresh tomatoes.
We should have smell-o-vision.
I know, it smells good. Delicious. And I've got this on high because I'm watching it. You guys can do it because you'll have a little extra time. It'll only take an extra 5 minutes. You can turn it on to like a medium. Tomato sauce, super plain. So this is basically just tomatoes, a little bit of salt, pepper.
So that was tomato sauce, not tomato paste, right?
That's correct.
And you still haven't added the lentils,
I haven't
Jennifer.
added the lentils yet.
So
I cook this down for a minute or so.
So Sawyer and Harper just wanted to know if you added the lentils yet, but
No,
not
I
yet.
haven't added the lentils in. You could, I still want them to get super mushy, so they kind of look like ground meat. I've got that extra juice here. Just gonna wait a second or so to reduce this down. I think Sawyer and Harper are my biggest fans, so.
Well, Serafina is also cooking along, Chef, and she says it smells really good.
So isn't this gonna be delicious? So you can even just serve this on toast if you want to, like some grilled bread, some garlic bread. You should make some garlic bread with this, it would taste delicious. And you see how I'm just sort of taking everything and moving it along? I'm gonna add in my lentils. And I kept that liquid if I need it, if it's too thick. There goes that whole container of lentils.
Nathan and Alexis are also cooking along with you today, Chef.
Thank you for cooking along with me. This looks so yummy. So yummy. Now you know I haven't tasted it yet, but because this is vegetarian, you can try it any step of the way because there's no meat. You don't have to worry about eating raw meat. But look how good that was. I think I'm gonna hold on to that just till the end. I'm gonna put some black pepper in. I'm only gonna put about half in. I can always put more in, but I can't take it out. Put chili sauce in if you want to. So do you remember what I told you that there's no salt in here? So that veggie stock powder is gonna be my salt. I'm gonna put about a teaspoon to start with. If I need more, well, I'll taste it, see if I need any more.
Chef, I
Yes.
have a question from Josh. Josh wants to know if it's okay to add chicken stock to the water you're cooking the pasta in.
You could if you want to, but then it's kind of a waste because you're throwing it away. You could save it and make soup with it, so you could have a soup to start with. So what I would do is you could boil it in there, but I would save the chicken stock water that you cook the pasta in, take an egg, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, mix it together, make a stracciatella soup. So you could if you wanted to.
But then you're not making vegan pasta
Then you're
anymore.
not making vegan pasta. But you can use chicken stock powder or veggie stock powder if you want to. So at this point here, I have not added in my sugar, and obviously the Parmesan cheese is to taste the meat. I'm going to taste to see. So this is where I have to see if there's enough salt in it, which is going to be our veggie stock powder. If I need to add some pepper to it. Excuse me, it's hot. Blow on it. That's really good. Use a little bit more salt. So that's our veggie stock powder. So I'd probably add in about a teaspoon and a half, which is the equivalent of about a cube and a half. If all of a sudden you walk when it gets too thick, that's what your starchy lentil water is, or your pasta water. You can use either one of them. Obviously the lentil has more flavor. But you want to try that lentil water the lentils were cooked in, because it could be super salty as well. So, not really. So you could add that in. I would use that as my first adding if you wanted to, and that is my second adding. I'm going to grab a spoon one more time, excuse me. And I'm going to add just a tiny pinch of sugar. When I say a tiny pinch, just a little bit, like that tiny bit.
Chef, Serafina's asking if you've added the pasta yet.
No, I haven't added the pasta in, and I chose a small pot. So at home, what I would do is I would toss my pasta together in the pot. But Chef decided to use the smallest pot that she had, which was silly. I always say go big or go home.
So this is just the sauce. The pasta's still been cooked and is sitting on the side of the
It's
stove.
just sitting here, it's just staying warm. And here's the original pot that it was in. So what I did is, there's still a bit of residual heat, so it's just staying nice and warm. At home, I have frying pans in there this day. and I would have taken it and I would have tossed the pasta together in the frying pan. I just don't have the room for that. I'm going to turn this a little bit lower. I'm going to give it one more quick try to see if it needs, once again, any salt. If all this water is evaporated off and it's too salty, you can always add a little bit more, just water to it. Delicious. If you were to add like veggie powder to it, or like vegetable stock, you're going to concentrate on that salt. So what we're going to do now is just plate it. Excuse me for a second, I'm going to actually show you how I would do it at home and how they do it in restaurants. So here you have your sauce done. I'm going to take my pasta. I'm just going to show you one portion. I don't rinse my pasta. You notice it's sticking together? That's okay. Don't worry about it sticking together. What's going to happen is my sauce is going to adhere to my pasta. So in a restaurant, this is how they do it. I'm going to cook it for about 30 seconds or so. Cook it together. I should have got a label. I told you guys to get a label, and here I am using a wooden spoon. Use what you got. I'm going to cook everything together. So what's happening is I cook the pastas called al dente, which means firm to the tube, about a minute before it says to finish cooking it. It said 11 minutes. I cooked it for about 10 minutes. The last minute, I'm going to cook it in the sauce. What it's going to do is it's going to go and suck up that sauce and give it some great flavor. About another 10 seconds or so. I like lots of sauce on mine, so I'm going to be pretty for the left. Super healthy, delicious. I serve this to my dad and my brother, and they never know that it's vegetarian until I tell them after. Now I'm going to be using a plate. So here's my plate. Grab my tongs. Turn it off. And can you guys see that? So here's how, this is a cool way to plate it. So what you do is you take your pasta, sort of squish it in the middle, and go like this. All of the goodies, all of the toppings go on the outside, and the pasta stays in the middle. I'm going to take this, put it right here in the middle, give it a twist. At home, I don't think it was fancy. And so all I have here is pasta and a little bit of sauce. Now what I'm using to top it off with some more of that sauce. Yum, 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 yum. Look how good that looks. And it's got lots of veggies in it. You can add more mushrooms if you want to. I said 6 mushrooms, but you can add up to 12 mushrooms, which is double the amount. And then a little bit of Parmesan cheese sprinkled on top. Oh my goodness, or a lot. Keep in mind that the cheese is salty, so you don't have too much. And never garnish with something that's not in the pasta. One day, if you guys ever come to my kids' class, I'll tell you about the habanero pepper that my dad ate. It's quite a funny story, but that's for another time. So you never garnish with anything that's not in the pasta. We've got a little bit of black pepper because that's in the pasta. You could put a little bit of parsley on top of it, or a little bit of fresh parsley into it as well. But that is our lentil bolognese. I hope you guys had a very good time today. Next week, don't forget we're making risotto. You need to buy, which is really important, you need to make sure that you have risotto rice. It looks just like sushi rice. It's not sushi rice. It's short and fat, which makes things sticky. It's not long and skinny. So that's what we need for next week. We're going to be doing pea and corn risotto. But if you don't have peas or corn at home, we can substitute any other type of vegetables you want. The week after, we're making tacos. We're making fish tacos with a corn and black pea salsa / salad. Really delicious, super wonderful. Hopefully we'll have some nice sunny weather out. You guys will be eating outside. So thank you very much everyone for watching. Please comment. Let me know what you thought of this particular recipe. Put down what you want to learn how to make. Maybe we'll make it 3 weeks from now. Thank you very much, guys. Have a lovely afternoon. Lunch is done. You got 3 more portions for mom, dad, your little sister, or your little brother. Have a lovely afternoon. Thank you once again, and we will see you next hump day with Chef Helena, which is next Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. here in the Well Seasoned Kitchen. Bye, guys.